Is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying, dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon and welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. It's 3:32 in the PM here on a beautiful Monday afternoon, September the 12th, 2022. Chris Arps, how you doing?
Opa! I'll just bring it out that I'm pleased that I'm doing really good. I'm pleased we have our old friend, don't take that the wrong way, Stell in the studio with us. Great to see you.
He's hanging out.
Stell Ponticus, who is going to be helping us with associate producer of duties. Stell, it's great to see you. I haven't seen you, my friend. It's been too long. You were my Sunday night buddy for 4 years over at the old shop.
That's true. And it's great to see you guys, and I really appreciate the warm welcome. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you,
Stell,
Stell.
you're not as pretty as Katie, though.
Well,
I know that.
wait till I get some makeup.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Nice.
Whoa, he's revealing himself early to the audience. Revealing secrets.
Hey, you know what, Chris? In 2022, who are we to judge?
Exactly.
Right? Who are we to judge? You know?
Maybe Stella. Maybe Stella.
That's right. That's right. Boy, do we have a lot to discuss today. I heard you all. The streaming app works extremely well at high speeds on Interstate 70. Just so you guys know. Yes, I listened to a big chunk of the show. I had to make some phone calls on the way back from Indianapolis last Friday, but heard a big chunk of the show. Heard Zach Smith, who is, you know what? I love sometimes listening to the show because while we're doing the show, it's hard to experience the show as a listener because each one of us is thinking, okay, what's the next thing I'm supposed to do so I don't screw this up? But it was cool to listen to Zach Smith. And Chris, I completely agree with your comment you made after he hung up. He is a brilliant young man.
He is really a brilliant young man. I really, really enjoy having him on every Friday. You get good legal analysis, good opinion, and then someone that's an academic like that, you wouldn't expect them to have a good sense of humor, lighthearted, and he does.
So I agreed with all of that, and now I understand why I'm sure our listeners love hearing from him as well. I also know, Chris, you gave your Chris's Corner on your thoughts of 9/11, 21 years hence. Since I was not here Friday, I'm going to do my speaker stump speech. I'm going to do a little short soliloquy. Some of you know, well, some of you know, some of you may not know. I spent nearly 10 years of my life in New York City, and I spent many years traveling to the underground caverns of the World Trade Center. And so that area of the city took on a persona for me. It felt very comfortable to me. It was something I did every day for like 4 or 5 years. And so when that horrific event occurred, even though I was back home in Missouri, it hit me to my core. And, you know, I don't know. I guess it was because I was in the legal world up there and not the financial world. I'm still amazed that I did not directly know anyone who was killed on that day at the Trade Center. However, my very good friend from law school, who I still keep in touch with, who is a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan, Ed Kiss, his brother was right next door in World Trade 4 or 7. So, you know, that's a giant complex, right? And there's like 7 or 8 buildings. And he was right next door. And when I went back up there with Suzanne for a wedding in like 2003 or 4, we were sitting at his parents' kitchen table, and he told us the story of what happened to him on that day. None of us said a word during the entire, you know, usually when you're talking, everybody's interrupting each other and blah, 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 you know. But we just sat there and listened, and in stunned silence, and the goosebumps on your back of your neck, because he, by the grace of God, got out of ground zero and was one of the people running uptown as the soot was falling on them.
Oh, chilling.
He said it was like being in hell.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
You know what's one thing that's kind of sad about 9/11, besides, of course, the actual event, and we knew this was going to happen, but it's been 21 years now. And you still get those same feelings of that day, and you get that sense of sadness, but it's almost almost an afterthought in a sense. It doesn't have the same gravity,
The weight.
that weight that it once had. Now, I wonder, was that because 9/11 fell on a Sunday and it was the first day of the football season, that had something to do with it? But it just didn't seem to have the weight or gravity that the other year celebrations seem to have.
I absolutely felt that yesterday. I know exactly what you mean. I think Vic Porcelli also mentioned something about it today in the show. It seemed like secondary, and you might be right about the football thing and how it was a Sunday, but it seemed yesterday it was almost like a secondary thought that people kind of forgot that it was 9/11.
I think what it's getting to is 9/11 is getting to like Pearl Harbor.
Mhm.
I wasn't around back then, but in the 70s and 80s when I was in school and we talked about it, it was like, oh yeah, that's kind of a big day in American history, but I don't have any real emotional connection to it, but I know it's historic. And it's almost 9/11 is becoming kind of like Pearl Harbor now in our memories.
Well, think about it. Anybody who is 20 years of age or younger has no memory of it.
Yeah.
Actually, probably more like 25 years of age or younger. And we don't feel that way because for us, that was our Pearl Harbor. It was something that we lived through. And I understand what you guys are saying because I sort of had the same feeling. I was like, this doesn't really feel like I'm remembering this day properly. And so, I went about my normal Sunday activities. And then when I got home in the afternoon, I sat down. I had a lot of other things I could have been doing outside, right? All the Sunday chores. I sat down and I made myself watch some of the documentaries and specials that run every year on the History Channel.
God, that's great.
And I'll tell you what, doing that, it made me very sad and upset, but it took me back 20 years. And I was glad. On one hand, it sucked to do that and to spend the rest of the afternoon doing that. But on the other hand, I'm glad I did it because I also had the same feelings. I was like, wait a minute, today's 9/11.
Yes.
I had to have that same reaction.
Yeah.
Now, when it goes back to Monday next year, we'll probably have a little more cognizance of it because we'll all be talking about it all day long.
And I tell you, Tim and Tony and all of us are big Dallas Cowboys fans. I think we would have been better off watching 9/11 Remembrance docuseries and watching the Cowboys lay that egg last night. That was just embarrassing.
Injured quarterback and all.
Yeah,
Great.
and then he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks.
Great way to start the season.
Yeah,
Boo.
that was pitiful.
Well, the Kansas City Chiefs won, so I guess there's that.
There we go.
They won. They spanked.
Ooh, boy, did they win. Boy, they look good. Big show today. Camelia Peterson is going to join us. She's the Grassroots Engagement Director for the St. Louis region. Yeah, there's a special session. Will it be a special session this week or not in Jefferson City? The possibility of a tax cut. The good folks at AFP Missouri are going to be hosting a rally this week. So Camelia wanted to talk to us about that at 3:42. When we come back at 4:07, Kenny, is it Zhu?
Kenny Zhu, yeah.
Kenny Zhu, president of Color Us United, will be talking to us about Harvard University's discrimination against Asian Americans. Jim Talent. Yeah, good to have the former U.S. Senator join us to talk about all things near and far at 4:22. Chris's Corner at 4:42. The Speaker's Stump Speech at 5:07. And,
Susie, we usually have Susie.
no Susie Moore.
No Susie today. She's at a charity
I
event.
knew something was
She's
seemed
at
off.
a charity event.
There was a disturbance in the force.
There was.
Well,
Susie is not with us today.
well, maybe we'll feature some red state stories
Sure.
during her segment. So all of that straight ahead. Very busy day. We'll come back with Camelia Peterson of Americans for Progress.
Springs. Volume southbound 55 from 44 to Potomac. And there's a crash on Jefferson just south of Park. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another cool night tonight. We dip down to the mid-50s. About 56 degrees will do it for the low. And then 82, a little warmer day in the afternoon. Sunshine, lighter winds, not as gusty with those winds for Tuesday, but a lovely day. It does get a little warmer each day we go this week, though. Wednesday's high 85 and lots of sunshine. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Distrust of the federal government is an all-time high. Executing a search warrant on a former president has never been done before.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, this is Chris Arps telling you about my friends over at the Dental Link, a state-of-the-art facility offering a full range of dental services, including cosmetic and implant dentistry. You know, one of the services that they offer is they send you a text message and let you know that you have an upcoming appointment. For a person like me that is absent-minded and doesn't like to use his calendar, it is a perfect reminder for me. If you are missing one or more teeth or suffer from loose dentures, many dental implants might be the solution for you. Many dental implants are less invasive, less painful, and your recovery time is much shorter. Plus, best of all, the cost to you is much less than with older, more traditional dental implants. 2 convenient locations in Baldwin, and Melville. Call the Dental Link today at 314-794-6464. That's 314-794-6464. TheDentalLink.com.
If you believe Brandon and the supply chain issues are still in crisis, or even if you don't, hurry into Southern Armory, your Second Amendment headquarters, for the best selection of firearms, suppressors, holsters, ammunition, pepper spray, and knives. Browse through our constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, at southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
On Tuesday, big media says Democrats have all the momentum going into the midterms. So what should conservatives do to win in November?
Morning starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
To the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show here at 3:45 in the PM, 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Chris, does this feel like an economic resurgence to you?
It does not. Gas prices have gone down a little bit, but they're still $2 more than they were when Joe Biden came into the presidency. Food prices have not gone down at all. They're higher than ever. Remember I talked a while ago about this crazy statistic that it's cheaper to go out to a restaurant than it is to buy food in a grocery store. And usually the opposite is true. When you don't have any money, you buy groceries so you don't spend money, but it's actually cheaper to go out. So no, Tim, I don't.
I think you're spot on. I was just making sure because I'm not an economist, Didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night either. Let's bring in our next guest. She may have some thoughts about economic matters and how we can make the economy better here in the state of Missouri. Camelia Peterson joining us now. She's the Grassroots Engagement Director for the St. Louis region with Americans for Prosperity. Missouri. AmericansForProsperity.org/Missouri on the internets. Camelia, good afternoon. Welcome to News Talk STL.
Good afternoon. Great to talk to you guys today.
Thank you. Yeah, very great to be here. Thank you for joining us. Camelia, would you say that the economy in the U.S. or the economy in Missouri is clicking on all cylinders under Joe Biden's administration? And if not, Camelia, what could the state of Missouri do about it this week in a special session?
Well, I don't know about you, but you mentioned the grocery store prices, and I'm still paying a whole lot more every time I go to the grocery store. In fact, when you mentioned that going out to a restaurant is cheaper than going to buy the groceries for it, no kidding. I talked to people who have family in the business that are higher up in the grocery supply chain, and they're saying, look, we have not passed on all of the costs that are coming, and it's going to get worse. I talked to a candidate in the St. Louis County area who's running for rep just not too long ago. His family owns an ice cream store, and he said that they are absorbing these increased costs because, you know what? Nobody wants to pay $7 for an ice cream cone. So they're between a rock and a hard place. What do you do? So yeah, there are things that we can do to help with that.
Camelia, before we get into more politics, I just want to ask you, because you are the St. Louis Regional Engagement Director for Americans for Prosperity, what's the electric feeling right now? I mean, we are just a couple of weeks into September 11th September after Labor Day, when campaigns traditionally begin. Well, what kind of excitement are you seeing within the grassroots here in the St. Louis region?
Well, I think especially with the special session coming up, a lot of people are looking for that. I think they were all kind of breathing a sigh of relief after the primary because, the primary is the general in the Missouri for the most part. So I think everybody was ready to relax a little bit. And now, special session is kicking in. And so they're realizing that, whoops, we can't do that quite yet. Plus, we have some general election races coming up that are competitive and are, needing our support as well. And one of the things that we do a lot is we work in training people in grassroots advocacy. It's actually something that we're doing with the City of St. Louis GOP right now. In fact, we've got one coming up this Thursday evening, the third in a series we're doing with them. And that is something that's really important, is to empower people to know, what's the proper role of their government? How can they get involved? How can they have influence? How can they affect their communities at the local level? And the session that we are doing this Thursday evening, and everyone is welcome at 6:00 Thursday evening at the St. Louis Police Officers Association. And we are working on how do we message in our community, because we are in a battle of values and ideas, and we need to be able to sell our principles and tell the stories that people can relate to, that let them know, the ideas of liberty and those principles, those are what make people more free and more prosperous.
Speaking to Camelia Peterson, Grassroots Engagement Director, St. Louis Region, Americans for Prosperity. Camelia, and you're very busy this week. Just prior to that, you all at AFP Missouri are hosting at an event at the Missouri State Capitol to help kick off the special session, maybe give the legislators up there a little bit of incentivization and maybe some persuasion via the grassroots folks here in Missouri. Camelia, what is the purpose of the rally, and what message are you hoping legislators hear?
So one of the things that we've been talking to folks about is we think that it is great as far as the reason that the governor called the special session. It's he's proposed an income tax cut, which is fantastic. We all need a tax cut, right? But what the vast majority of Missourians do not understand is that the proposed tax cut is one that is actually already in law, and is already in place. So we are encouraging people from all over Missouri and are coming in on Wednesday at 1:00 in the Capitol Rotunda to meet and ask the legislature and the governor to give us a real tax cut, because yes, we want that drop to 4.8%, but that's something that's already been in place, and it is kind of set up to be triggered by revenue thresholds. So, we have 5 more of those left to reach that 4.8% number that they are talking about right now. We say, yes, let's do that right now. But give us a real tax cut, and let's keep those step downs in place so that as Missouri continues to do well revenue-wise, we keep getting our taxes cut.
Camelia, what is the argument that you use when people say that tax cuts will only drain the coffers of the state and we'll have to cut services? What's the argument that you use when people are against tax cuts when they use that?
Well, I think if you have to look at the last few years, Missouri has continually done better every year. And these, especially when we're talking about, when we have an almost $5 billion surplus in this last budget. And so, the governor, when he talked about, when he rejected the one-time, proposal to give some people, a $500 tax cut for this time, his point was that we need to give everybody a tax cut and a permanent tax cut that is long-term. And so I think there's agreement that we can do this. And our point is that let's keep going with that, because you know what? These are triggered by revenues, and Missouri continues to do well as we have been, and it looks like we will continue to do. Then there's no reason why we can't, continue to put more money in the pockets of the people in the state, because you know what? You put more money in people's pockets, and what do they do with it?
Spend it.
Spend it. That's right.
And Camelia, isn't it also true that the proof is further in the pudding when you look at these states, the 8 states around us, and you look at the states that appear to be the places that people want to grow, to live, to work, to raise a family, to expand their businesses, with the exception of the good old People's Republic of Illinois, which makes Missouri look better every day for any reason whatsoever. All of the other states around us, Camelia, Iowa just completed a massive tax cut last year. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, Nebraska, Kentucky just did a massive tax cut with their Republican legislature and overrode their Democratic governor on it. Not even to say Tennessee, Florida,
yes,
Texas, all of these states, Camelia, have cut their taxes and have increased their budgets and have increased their populations, haven't they?
Yes, and I can tell you that Missourians are noticing this, because I've heard all on the ground. I hear a lot about this. And when I was talking to candidates prior to the primary, that is a common thing that came up over and over again, was eliminating the income tax entirely, because they were looking at those states who have been doing so well. And when we talk about how do we incentivize a better economy in Missouri and make, Missourians more prosperous, they're looking at those states and saying, we can do that too. And we would love to see that.
Really, if people want to get more information about Americans for Prosperity in Missouri, how can they do that and get a hold of you if they want to?
Sure. So probably a couple of the easiest ways is if you're on socials, you can find Americans for Prosperity on Twitter at AFP Missouri. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for Americans for Prosperity Missouri. They'll pop up both ways. You can, if you go to Americans for Prosperity on either of those, you'll find my accounts as well. But, I absolutely don't mind if people call me too. So you know what? If you have questions and you want to know something, you call me. My number is 417-726-9475. I would love to talk to Missourians.
Fantastic. And Camelia, that rally again is this Wednesday. Is that correct? And what time and where?
This Wednesday, 1:00 in the Capitol Rotunda.
Very good. Camelia Peterson, who is the Grassroots Engagement Director for the St. Louis region, Americans for Prosperity, Missouri. Camelia, thanks so much for joining us, giving us this information. Good luck this week, and we hope you all keep us posted on the progress in the city of Jefferson.
Thank you,
Thanks
Camelia.
so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you as well. All right, Camelia Peterson there, AFP Missouri. Let's see here. We have got a lot coming up today. Kenny Zhu, who is the president of Color Us United. Chris, he's going to be talking to us about the fact that his organization, I believe, is the organization that challenged Harvard University for discrimination against Asian Americans.
Yeah.
Interesting story.
Got a chance to meet this young man at the old Parkland conference in Dallas, told us the events that led up to his group suing Harvard. They are clearly discriminating against Asian Americans in their admissions to Harvard. They're being discriminated against because they do too well. Go figure that.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
That is so bizarre.
Funny that we don't hear about this much on the national airwaves.
You're doing too well.
You're doing too
so
well.
We
I'm
actually
sorry.
don't need any more
We're going to have to
Asians.
discriminate against you. Sorry.
When did America become a race to the bottom? You know?
It really has
I mean,
become that.
It sounds so backwards for us as a country.
Well, the thing is, the liberals' mindset is so screwed up. This is how they look at it. It's like, look, the Asian population, you've done very well. You are in the top percentage when it comes to economics. It's great that you're doing well and all that, but you're taking slots away from some poor Hispanic and African American person.
But isn't the opportunity laid out for the Black and Hispanic and the white person just as much as it is for the Asian person?
But the Hispanics, the Asians do too well on the test and they take up a lot of the slots.
Isn't this proving the old adage and axiom that this is what communism delivers to you? It delivers equality. Equality and everyone being miserable, right? Everyone being less than they can possibly be. Well, we'll talk to Kenny Zhu about that. And then former U.S. Senator Jim Talent on all things near and far, from border security to Ukraine and everything in between at 4:25. Followed by Chris's Corner. That's a very busy 4 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. Stay right here. We'll be right back after this on the Tim Jones and Chris.
Are tired, frustrated by a stalling economy, inflation, and disintegration of trusted institutions. Millions of Americans are waking up to a country they don't recognize. And while they struggle to raise their families and pay their bills, the media and corporations are telling them they're what's wrong with the country. Thankfully, there are some companies that still believe in America. And when we stick together, greatness follows. Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative cell company, is on the front lines fighting for the sanctity of life, religious freedom, and the Second Amendment. They have broad nationwide coverage through multiple major networks, giving you crystal clear coverage, minus the woke propaganda supported by the major carriers. Go to patriotmobile.com or call 972-PATRIOT. They have plans for any budget, and their U.S.-based customer service team is ready to help. Veterans and first responders save even more, so make the switch today. Use the offer code RADIO and get free activation. That's patriotmobile.com, patriotmobile.com, or call 972-PATRIOT.
If you are on Medicare, you need to listen to this message. Open enrollment for all Medicare participants starts October 15th. This is a very critical time of the year for you to make needed changes to your plan.
This is Mike Butts with MB Health Insurance Agency. Regardless if you are new or renewing your health insurance, the process can be confusing and very time-consuming. MB Health is local here in St. Louis, and we will handle your enrollment quickly, properly, and effectively. Find us on the web at mbhealth.com.
MB Health can also help small businesses find the perfect medical coverage for their employees. That's mbhealth.com.
Where callers won't be canceled.
It's just so ridiculous and so offensive.
And we don't socially distance from differing opinions.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I haven't always agreed with you.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
This country is worth fighting for.
That's why we're canceling those season tickets. That's why we're canceling those subscriptions.
I'm just so sick and tired of it.
Disgust us.
It's insanity, man.
This is News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. Ukraine has kept the counteroffensive momentum in its war against Russia going and claiming that in one region, it's pushed the invaders right back up to the border. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
The regional governor of the northeastern Kharkiv region says in some areas of the front, our defenders have reached the state border with the Russian Federation, while the city's mayor has written on Telegram that soldiers are heroes, highlighting the exuberant mood in the nation that's endured more than 200 days of war and occupation. However, as throughout the war, such military claims are hard to verify independently. After Sunday's attacks by Russia, Kiev authorities say electric power and water supplies have been restored to some 80% in the Kharkiv region. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The New York Times is casting doubt on recent polls that show Democrat candidates outpacing Republicans in key races. Correspondent Bob Agnew reports.
Recent surveys suggest Democrats are on track to retain control of the Senate and lose the House, but only by a small margin. The left-leaning New York Times now admits the polling may not paint an accurate picture. Times senior writer David Lenhart says one factor is that Republicans are more leery of mainstream media polling and may be less willing to participate in some surveys. The paper recalls how surveys overstated Joe Biden's strength in 2020 in states like North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Ohio, all states with major Senate races on the line this year. Bob Agnew reporting.
Jeff Bezos' rocket company has suffered its first launch failure. No one was aboard, only science experiments. The Blue Origin rocket blasted off from West Texas on Monday, then exploded. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 229 points. The Nasdaq rose 154. The S&P 500 advanced 43. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
There is no country in this world that a black person would rather be. Unless, of course, they grow up in this country.
Uncle Tom 2 from Larry Elder and Justin Malone uncovers the Marxist plot using false racial tension to demoralize America.
They're fed a lie that is so deceptive. They actually believe the opposite of that which is true.
The first act in organizing our people is to let them know who they are.
Uncle Tom 2. Watch on demand or buy the DVD at salemnow.com. salemnow.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
Support is sponsored by Blindster. Want to save big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Shop Blindster and save 45% off any order. Just use the code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Blindster.com. There's a crash eastbound 5570 at Illinois 162 in Troy. Sounds like it may be blocking all lanes. There could be lane blockage southbound as well. Bumper-to-bumper delays eastbound 70 between Grand and the Illinois Bank of the Museo Veterans Bridge. That left lane down again just east of the bridge. There's an accident reported on the southbound 270 ramp to westbound 70 and stop and go westbound 70 between 5th Street and Cave Springs. Slow westbound 64 Kings Highway to McCausland, and again from Lindbergh to 270. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another cool night tonight. We dip down to the mid-50s. About 56 degrees will do it for the low. And then 82, a little warmer day in the afternoon. Sunshine, lighter winds, not as gusty with those winds for Tuesday, but a lovely day. It does get a little warmer each day we go this week, though. Wednesday's high 85 and lots of sunshine. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by All Solutions Pest Control, 636-486-7888, or visit them at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Hi, this is David with House Sold Easy, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and you want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-293-3000. I pay cash and close in as little as 3 days. I buy houses in any condition, any price range, and any location in St. Louis. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that is trashed and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great, because I love buying junk houses. I buy vacant houses, abandoned houses, condemned houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and you want to sell it fast, call me at 314-293-3000. That's 314-293-3000. 314-293-3000.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows.
Mike Ferguson in the morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps.
Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble.
Subscribe and watch
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
My district is heavily Republican and it's heavily white. I'm not referring to white people. I'm from a mostly white town. Yeah. And let me tell you one thing. You gotta know who you're dealing with. Like, you gotta treat them like shit. Like, I mean, that's the only way they respect you. Like, I keep them right here. Like, under my thumb. Like, that's where I keep them. Like, you have to. Yeah. Otherwise, they get out of control like kids.
Trust
me. So, you know, like, for me, all these other people are tiptoeing around them, and I'm like, no, that's some white shit. I ain't doing that. They be like, well, I'm just going to say some white shit. Yeah. And that was my problem with Bernie, because he was talking to an all-black crowd, and he was afraid to say black shit. I said, if I'm talking to an all-black crowd, I'm going to say black shit. Yeah. Now, if you don't like it, you get your white ass up and leave.
Man. Whoa, Project Veritas does it again.
Oh, I was wondering, was that a Project Veritas
You were
tape?
right. You were right. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, where you're going to hear stuff you don't hear anywhere else because the mainstream national corporate media won't talk about it. 4:07 in the PM here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Happy Monday, Chris. That was Project Veritas in an undercover video, as they are wont to be famous for. You would think by now, Chris, people would realize that you may always be on a hot mic moment in a world where you can literally put a supercomputer in your coat pocket and press a recording device and no one would be the wiser.
And, you know, that's a whole other segment we can talk about. Is that a good thing?
Well, such is the world we live in.
Exactly.
Chris, that was Crystal Matthews caught on that hot mic, a South Carolina Democratic nominee for U.S. Senate, saying, my district is slightly Republican and it's heavily white. I'm no stranger to white people. I'm from a mostly white town. And let me tell you one thing. You ought to know who you're dealing with. Like, you got to treat them like S, like it rhymes with Kit.
Pit.
Like, I mean, that's the only way they'll respect you. Wow. Thought we were past that, but I guess
I did
not.
too. That's not particularly my experience, but maybe it's for some.
Well, Chris, our next guest is going to talk about how Crystal Matthews may treat Asian Americans. I wonder if she thinks of them the same way.
Every time you keep saying Crystal Matthews, I'm thinking you're going to say
Crystal
Crystal Meth.
Me too.
I'm waiting for you to say
Meth.
Crystal Meth.
What's happening?
Maybe she is on crystal meth. I don't know.
Could be. You don't know.
Let's bring in Kenny Zhu, president of Color Us United, regarding what has become a very famous case regarding discrimination against Asian Americans. Kenny, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Kenny. So, Kenny, first of all, tell us about Color Us United. What does the organization do? What are you all involved in?
We advocate for a race-blind America. Look, we want to take race out of the equation in everything. We believe in a meritocracy. You should be treated on the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And unfortunately, today's woke ideologues want to put race in everything. They want to put race in your hiring. They want to put race in your admissions. They want to put race in your drink if they could. So if you go to colorusunited.org, you can see the list of woke organizations that we are actively taking on right now, such as the Salvation Army, American Express. Wow. They've been indulging in all kinds of race baiting and hustling that we oppose.
Kenny, tell me this. Is the basic premise, tell us a little bit about this case, this Harvard case. And is Harvard's defense basically is that Asians are doing so well in the admissions that they're crowding out Hispanic and Black students? Is that their reason for doing this discrimination?
I think you summed it up pretty well. Basically, they have a race-based diversity and inclusion philosophy that Asians are not a part of. They want minorities that they don't want all minorities. No, they want Black and Hispanic minorities specifically, because they're the ones who traditionally, unfortunately, are getting lower scores on the SAT and grades. So if it were just by merit, Harvard would admit 43% of their students would be Asian American, actually, because Asians typically do very well on these things because their culture allows them to do well at these things. But because of these policies, they actively discriminate against Asians and require them to get significantly higher SAT scores and grades just to have the same chance as a Black student or a Hispanic student.
Kenny, could you explain to our audience what you think happened in the United States of America a few years ago? Because, Chris and I are of the generation of folks who were born in the late 60s, early 70s. I remember watching the cartoons on Saturday morning about the Great American Melting Pot. My parents they're both white, but they're from diverse backgrounds. My mom grew up in the city of St. Louis. She is the daughter of first generation Italian immigrants. And people may not believe this, but when my grandfather came to this country, Italians were part of the persecuted classes. He also happened to be a Catholic, so there was a double whammy there. My dad grew up on a dirt farm in Southwest Missouri, very poor, no indoor plumbing or running water. So when I grew up, my parents taught me you treat people on not what they look like, but who they are, what they do. And like you said, a more merit-based system. Kenny, what do you think happened over the last, 10 or 20 years that we got off that track?
Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. What happened is that race became a profitable industry. That's what happened. Racial victimhood. So, we all believe in civil rights. We all believe in equal rights. But then there are people who actually profit off of racial victimhood in this country. Lots of people. In fact, diversity, equity, and inclusion right now, the new hot thing in companies, is a 10 billion plus industry now. And their only purpose is to get these companies to hire different skin colors, which is no basis at all as to whether you're a qualified person or not. And of course, all this leads into is more division, more hatred between races, more resentment. If you're a Black employee now, it's, because of this preferential treatment, people are more likely to become suspicious of your achievements. And that's a bad thing. It's a bad thing for everybody. It's something we need to avoid as a country.
You're exactly right about that, Kenny. I had a friend of mine. She was an older woman, much older than me, but she was a female doctor, and she was very to the left and everything. And I asked her about that, and it seems so weird, but that she achieved and did what she had to do, but they look down on everyone else that's African American and act like they can't achieve. And I asked her, doesn't it kind of bring down your achievements of being a doctor, where someone may look at you as, you're only a doctor because of affirmative action or this or that? But that's a very interesting question. That's more of a statement than a question. What I want to ask you, Kenny, is traditionally Hispanics and Asians and Blacks vote liberal, vote minority. Do you think this lawsuit that you guys have filed will help Asians make a more rightward trend in the coming years?
Yeah, this is good question. It's also an opportunity for me to tell your listeners about my new book, An Inconvenient Minority, which is actually about this Harvard case, about how the left uses this diversity ideology to actually discriminate against people that they don't prefer, they don't want, such as Asians. And so you ask, why do Asians and Hispanics and Blacks continue to vote for this party that supports discrimination against Asians? And the reality is identity politics is very strong. The Democrats have made a very concerted effort to recruit these minorities, especially incoming minorities from other countries. Obama was a big part of this as well. Actually, Asians used to they actually split voting for Bush and Clinton. But when Obama came around, he was so charismatic, and a lot of Asians had no idea what the political system of the United States was. And now we're only starting to realize what the Democratic Party is really like. But we were very much attracted to that, and we started to flock towards the Democrats.
Speaking to Kenny Zhu, president of Color Us United. You can find them at colorusunited.org, advocating for a race-blind America. Kenny has written a book about Our main subject we've been talking about him with here today, the case against Harvard University. He's written a book called An Inconvenient Minority. Kenny, I'm very interested. You caught my attention about the advocacy that you all are also initiating against American Express.
Oh,
Kenny, would you tell us a little bit about that? I was unaware of this, and I was with a bunch of well-heeled lobbyists last week at a conference, and they're all generally conservatives, and they're all whipping out their American Express Platinum and Gold cards. I want to be armed with the information to tell them next time they shouldn't be using those.
And you should tell them, hey, nice un-American Express card you got there, because what American Express is doing at their company is they've earned the title. They're the wokest company in America right now. Unbelievable things. They assigned a 15% bonus to employers or to their HR staff who hire a politically correct number of minorities and women. They've launched these massive critical race theory, anti-white trainings where they basically are saying that capitalism is racist. You're a credit card company.
Wow.
And they've been prioritizing the firing of white salespeople in order to elevate minority salespeople. In fact, they have a leadership program that they say, this is directly on our website, unamericanexpress.com, where you can find all this information. They directly say our leadership program is reserved only for Black African-American applicants, not even Asians, not even Latinos. That's how race-based they're becoming.
Wow. Kenny, I'm wondering, are there any other suits planned against elite Ivy League universities besides Harvard?
Harvard is the representative lawsuit that represents what's going on in this entire elite college system.
Okay.
The corresponding lawsuit against the elite public colleges is the lawsuit against UNC Chapel Hill, which is practicing similar race-based policies. The whole point of these lawsuits is to get rid of the ability for colleges to use race in their admissions process, which they're abusing to an unhealthy extent.
Fascinating indeed. Kenny, before we let you go, we of course want people to check you out at colorusunited.org. Where can they find the book, An Inconvenient Minority?
Go buy my book, An Inconvenient Minority, at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. IndieBound is a great place to buy the book, gives the most royalties for the author, support the author, and get this book, An Inconvenient Minority.
Kenny, I do have one more question. Isn't there a suit, or isn't this supposed to come before the Supreme Court next session?
Yep. Yeah. In fact, oral arguments for this case, which could decide the future of affirmative action in this country, is scheduled for October 30th.
Okay.
And the decision will be released next term.
Wow. Right around the bend. Kenny Zhu, president of Color Us United, our guest here today. Kenny, thank you for all the work you do. Sounds like you are absolutely a great American, and we urge people to get your book and check you out at colorusunited.org.
And keep us updated on the suit. We hope to have you back.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny Zhu. Chris, I was paging through the their about section, and we have interviewed a bunch of people who are affiliated with Color Us United.
Really? Yeah.
Christian Watson
Oh, okay.
is involved. DeRoy Murdoch is one of their advisors.
Excellent. I didn't know that.
Somebody else.
We did 2 weeks ago. We interviewed someone from Color Us
Oh, did we?
United. Yes, we did.
I don't know.
Young man,
Yes, I
22.
So I don't know if we've interviewed this person or not, but Christopher Rufo.
That might be him.
I think with Christopher Rufo we had on before. That name
Yes,
sounds familiar.
yeah.
And Michael Gonzalez with the Heritage Foundation also does work with Color Us United.
Cool.
So how about them apples? This is a heck of an organization here. A lot of firepower on board. We wish them all the best. And we can ask Zach Smith about that case as the oral arguments approach. Going to be a very busy Supreme Court term.
43% of the admissions would be Asians if they didn't discriminate. That's incredible.
Unbelievable.
That's a proud achievement.
Unbelievable. You know, we've talked a lot about the Hispanic red wave. We have neglected the fact that Asian Americans are turning as well against the Democratic Party. And that was very interesting how Kenny explained why that's happening. So, all right, folks, we'll turn topics a touch and speak with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent, who's with the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council now. Probably going to discuss with Jimmy everything from from our national border to that of Ukraine's and everything in between. When we come back here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show at 1019 94.1.
with the right tax planning. And as Steve explains, we'll all have to adjust to tax changes that have been made over the past few years.
We had the Trump tax cuts. Those are going to expire. They got rid of the stretch IRA. If we've got historically low rates for at least the next 2 to 3 years, why don't we take advantage of it?
To learn more about your taxes in retirement, mark your calendars for Wednesday, September 28th at 6 p.m. at St. Peter's Cultural Arts Center. And while it's complimentary, you do need to reserve your spot today. Call 636-230-8824. Visit yourmoneymattersstl.com for more details.
The All Financial Group is a financial services firm that offers a broad array of products and services, including life insurance and annuities. Licensed in Missouri and Illinois.
This is Pocket Watching with JT, the call-in financial talk show focused on helping you get your money right. Jason Thornton is a certified financial planner, licensed in both tax and investments. Now, this is not personal financial advice. This is JT's real reaction to all your money and business questions. Are you deep in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and looking for a way out? Call Pocket Watching with JT, the financial advisor for the people.
Friday night at 8 on News Talk STL.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com. Are you downright disgusted with the corruption of our Democratic leadership at St. Louis City Hall that's been reported in the news?
Hi, this is Mary Teresa McLean, chair of the Republican Party City of St. Louis. If you want to put our city that we all love back on track, you must get involved. If you're ready to be part of the solution, we invite you. Come and meet us. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Fox News commentary.
4,000 beagles have been rescued and will now never be sold into lab testing. Now, this is the kind of news we needed today. I'm Tommy Laren. More next.
Hi, I'm Lisa Booth for Bishop Gold Group. Are you worried about your financial future as retirement gets closer? All over the country, soon-to-be retirees are fearing for their financial future as markets remain volatile. Bishop Gold Group helps you invest in gold and gold IRAs to protect your wealth and retirement during times of high inflation and wild swings in the market. Secure your future today. Contact Bishop Gold Group by dialing pound 250 from a mobile phone and say the keyword Bishop Gold, or visit bishopgoldgroup.com.
The Humane Society of the U.S. has completed its mission to save 4,000 beagles from an inhumane breeding facility in Virginia. These beagles were reportedly housed in inhumane conditions, and if not for the facility breaching Animal Welfare Act violations, these pups would have likely been sold to labs like Fauci's National Institutes of Health, where they would have been experimented on. Now, the story has a happy ending, but the fact that this practice still occurs in the USA is stunning and sickening. According to the CEO of HSUS, on average, 60,000 dogs are still used in labs each year. But as for the 4,000 just rescued, they will now be placed in more than 100 shelters and rescue facilities across the U.S., including right here in Nashville, Tennessee. If you can open your heart and your home to one of these dogs, or any rescue for that matter, please do. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can listen to all of my hot takes at foxnewscommentary.com.
St. Louis's place to talk.
The American people have further lost faith in our governmental institutions.
People can decide what they want and how they want to live.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Important political pontificators on the center-right side of the political spectrum, I would have told you were nuts.
I would agree with you. He kind of gave the bent that he was left-wing, and he was part of the tech crowd, and that's kind of how they roll. So, but he has been a defender of free speech, even though he's kind of reneged on the Twitter deal a little bit. But yeah, you're right, Tim.
He says things like against his interest a lot. You know, I mean, here's a guy who runs an electric car company saying we need to rely on oil and gas in the short term or our very civilization will crumble. He's right. I mean, you can't just shut off all the coal-fired power plants, the natural gas and the oil refineries and think that we're going to have a world where we're all going to be living in cozy comforts.
Elon Musk is smart enough to realize that even though he is building electric cars, it takes oil and gas and natural gas to run those factories to build those electric cars.
I love the bumper stickers that you see sometimes in the cartoon memes on the back of Teslas or any other electric car. It says powered by coal. Someone slapped a powered by coal sticker. Let's talk about whether Elon is right or wrong with our next guest.
Former U.S. Senator Jim Talent and chairman of the Reagan Institute.
Jim, you got the tux all pressed and ready to go up there on the Upper East Side.
I'm watching this and just wondering, who's running the show. The political logic behind it escapes me. And I've stopped looking for three-dimensional chess. I just think they don't know what they're doing.
And now, former Senator Jim Talent.
He's at Jim Talent on Twitter. Senator, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Senator, Elon Musk, I think, generally speaks to a younger, more libertarian-leaning audience, but he says things that we might say, I think, and so he's probably a good thing for the movement of freedom and liberty, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's a heterodox voice. That's a term I learned a couple years
Tim,
ago.
get that dictionary over there so I can
think
that up.
I think he just cussed at us. Yeah.
We live in an age where saying common sense things is considered to be controversial or even revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need oil and gas. Yeah, I think we do. Or maybe we shouldn't shut down the schools for 2 years. Not let the kids go to school. Maybe it's not a really great idea when troubled teenagers come in and have all kinds of issues just to rush to, pump them full of drugs that are, going to suspend their puberty. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. But we're, those at the commanding heights of the culture can't seem to absorb these basic truths. Yeah, we need oil and gas. Tim, access to affordable and reliable energy. That means energy you can afford and energy that when you flip the switch, it's going to be there, is one of the most essential needs, essential in terms of the basics of the human condition. It's what separates, third world, very poor countries from even developing countries, much less first world countries. So yes, Elon Musk is right, and it's a shame that he has to say it.
Mm-hmm. Senator, yesterday was the 21st anniversary of 9/11, and we opened the show talking about how it didn't seem like September 11th. It didn't have the same emotional effect on us that it did in the past. What's your thoughts on 9/11? And do you feel the same way, where maybe that emotion is starting to ebb a little bit, where it's starting to become like Pearl Harbor to us, an important date, but not as emotional as those who went through it?
Yeah, I think you may be right, Chris, except, of course, for the people who were affected by it. And we all know that goes far beyond even just the families of those who died that day. People do tend to forget. Society tends to forget, and everything moves quicker now. So, we remembered Pearl Harbor. We still do, but I mean, really remembered it for longer probably than this is going to have that big a hold on the public consciousness. But, it showed that we are vulnerable, that the advances in technology, which have done so much to improve our lives, have also made us vulnerable. I mean, the oceans don't protect us the way they did for the first, 2 centuries plus of the nation's existence. So, yeah, that's one of the things I think about every September 11th, which is, what's next?
Mm-hmm.
That's a cheery thought, isn't it?
Oh, well, it's okay. Maybe this will be a little cheerier. Speaking to former U.S. Senator, Chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council, Jim Talent. Senator, in a country that is not known for making dramatic changes or changes overnight, we enter the first full week in the United Kingdom with a new monarch for the first time in 70 plus years, with King Charles III, and a new prime minister with she'll be engaging on her first full week in that role, Liz Truss. Senator, for those of us here in flyover country in the heartland who may be thinking, why should I give a rip about the monarchy or who the prime minister is of England? What does that mean for us? Why is that important for us to know these things and where these people might take our closest ally on the planet?
Well, we draw many of our traditions, of course, from the British. They are probably our closest, have been consistently our closest allies, not probably really, ever since World War II. And a very necessary ally in dealing with the rest of the continent. The British have been there for us time and time again, and of course we've returned that favor for them. So we should wish them well, and I think she's off to a good start. She announced that they're going to go out and actually start producing energy.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do fracking. I think she's not going to pursue this net zero idea that, again, we were going to just shut down the use of oil and gas. She understands, I think, that won't work. In fact, the Europeans seem to be coming around a little bit on that and also on issues like nuclear. She doesn't think that they're going to tax their way out of their problems, which is true. So that's good also. So I think she's gotten off to a good start. And I thought the new king's speech to the people was good as well. And if he follows the example of his mother, he's going to be a good king.
Senator, the Ukrainian army has had some spectacular victories the last 3 days. We almost should be playing the Rocky theme while I'm asking this question. It's almost been incredible. I want to ask you, get your opinion on that, how they're doing. Can they actually win this war pretty soon? And I want to ask you about how concerned are you that Russia is going to use energy as a weapon this winter against Western Europe?
Yeah, I think they just tried that. The Russians did. And I kind of took that as a sign of desperation because it's going to cost them revenue as well. I think maybe deep down Putin knows that he can't win this thing unless he can break the will of the Ukrainians and or their supporters in the West. And so he used that gambit of cutting off Nord Stream and the supplies of gas to the Europeans. But given that they worked themselves into the situation they were in, which was really, really dumb of them to do, in the last 6 months or so, they've responded pretty well. They built up some of their reserves. They have plans in place to get through the winter. So I don't think that's going to work. Well, what happened was, I mean, in an operational sense, if you just look at this in the last few months, the Russians ran out of gas in June. They were trying to pin down Ukrainian forces by constantly attacking in the Donbass, and they were using up their artillery supplies in order to do that and making very little progress. And then the Ukrainians were able to reconstitute in the last couple of months. The Russians thought that they were going to attack in the south, and they have, and I think that's a serious offensive, but it's a staged offensive. In other words, it's going to go through stages across a fairly broad front. And the Russians moved their best troops to the south, and in the north, in the central and northeast part of the country, it's very thinly manned. And the Ukrainians have shown themselves really good at maneuver warfare on a small scale, but that's all it takes when you're good at it. And the other side doesn't have enough men, and the ones they've got are their National Guard with poor morale, poorly trained, poorly supplied, and poorly commanded. So the Ukrainians have gotten a much bigger breakthrough than I think even they thought. But I would not look for this to end soon. If they get another breakthrough like this someplace else, I mean, there is a possibility of collapse on the Russians' part. But I think the question Putin has to ask himself now is he going to try and fully mobilize the country? He hasn't done that to this point, I think, because of the political costs for him. But if he doesn't do that, he's just running out of men, first and foremost, and also materiel. The Russian economy has done better in the face of sanctions than a lot of people thought they would, but the defense industrial base hasn't. And they've got, when you're buying supplies from North Korea, you're in some trouble.
And Iran.
Yeah, and Iran.
For sure. Speaking of former U.S. Senator Jim Talent, chairman of the Reagan Institute's National Leadership Council, at Jim Talent on Twitter. Senator, staying on the foreign policy motif, Kevin McCarthy gave what was for him a pretty fiery speech as he reflected on 9/11. He made references to what he considers to be Joe Biden's absolute failure on all things foreign policy. He said, as we are remembering this moment 21 years ago today, at that time, we had a commander-in-chief, George W. Bush, who united the country instead of dividing it. McCarthy made reference to the incredibly botched withdrawal from Afghanistan, the closure of Bagram Air Force Base, which many believe will be one of the worst military blunders in U.S. or perhaps even world history. He attacked the revival of the Iranian nuclear deal, talked about Russia being in Ukraine, the emergence of an ever more powerful China. Senator, these are all very important issues. You and I and Chris discuss them with you often. We really geek out on these things and are very interested in them and focused on them. But when Americans are polled, these types of issues tend to fall way down on people's interest scale. But I think some of these are hitting maybe closer to home than usual. What do you think about that, Senator? Am I right on that? Are these going to be more important in this midterm election or not so much?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily the individual issues, although certainly Afghanistan was politically. But the sense that we're stumbling around, the sense that there's either no direction or where there is real purpose, it's in the pursuit of diametrically the wrong thing, as in, for example, the attempt to revive the nuclear deal, which they can only do by giving the Iranians even more concessions. I mean, The nuclear deal basically means we give them sanctions relief and tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars in return for some very thin promise, and they're laughing at us while they're making it. I mean, that's really what it amounts to. So I think it's that sense of either drift or positive mistakes, incompetence, that does have a political fallout, yes. And he was right to hit on Afghanistan and on the Middle East. I'd give Biden an F on those two things. I think, China is probably I would have said a C maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Now probably a D. They don't really have a China policy. I think he's been better on Ukraine, late to the game, not as robust as it should have been. But the basic policy of supplying the Ukrainians is the right policy, and we're seeing it's having some effect now.
Senator, got one last question for you. Did you watch any football yesterday? Have you given NFL a second chance?
Yeah, but it's so easy now to go back and look at the condensed games or the highlights or whatever. But yeah, I watched a little football. It was an interesting weekend. I'm thinking with the extended season, the reduced preseason, and the fact they're not playing guys in the preseason, which I understand. These opening couple of games are kind of like preseason in a lot of places. A lot of teams just didn't perform very well.
Like the Dallas Cowboys.
Down the road, though. I don't expect Green Bay to continue. What did they score? 7 points?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to be the case the rest of the year.
Green Bay for the last couple of seasons have had a slow start. Then they rattle off about 9 or 10 game winnings streak at the end of the season has been their record.
I got to tell you though, I'm really into baseball, even more so than normal.
Yes.
And of course, a lot of it is the Cardinals
Sure.
and what Pujols is doing. I mean, it's just incredible. You can never underestimate greatness.
That's for sure.
He's just one of the greatest hitters of all time. And how a man at age 42 against right-handers gets 2 home runs in a row in 2 games in a row. And I think he's going to hit 700 this year unless he gets hurt. Certainly hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I tell my wife that all the time. You can't underestimate greatness.
So what does she say?
We don't want to. I can't repeat it on the air.
Yeah, it's
You're right.
It's not FCC compliant. Senator Jim Talent, our guest here every Monday afternoon, getting the week started off right. Senator, thanks so much for your time. It's great having you. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Senator.
There he goes. He's at Jim Talent on Twitter. Chris, the corner is up next.
Yeah, my corner is a question. Did Joe Manchin get played?
Oh, that's a great question indeed.
Yeah.
Question.
We'll talk about the details about that when we return with Chris's.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Want to save big on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Shop Blindster and save 45% off any order. Just use the code RADIO. Offer ends soon. Shop Blindster.com. All lanes have reopened east and westbound 5570 at Illinois 162. Expect residual delays eastbound and your bumper-to-bumper eastbound US 40 between 5570 and Troy O'Fallon Road. Construction lines up eastbound 70 in the city, Salisbury to the Illinois Bank of the Museo Veterans Bridge. That's where the right lane is down. Southbound 55 slow 44 to Potomac. Heavy westbound 44 from Elm to Big Bend. Westbound 70 jams 5th Street to Cave Springs. And an accident westbound 70 east of 370. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another cool night tonight. We dip down to the mid-50s. About 56 degrees will do it for the low. And then 82, a little warmer day in the afternoon. Sunshine, lighter winds, not as gusty with those winds for Tuesday, but a lovely day. It does get a little warmer each day we go this week, though. Wednesday's high 85 and lots of sunshine. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's It's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
But I'm not going to turn my dialogue to you guys. I really like this channel.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Yeah, you know who your best first responder and protector of your family is? You. That would be you. And the place where you can make that so, or if you already feel you're proficient in that regard, where you can become better, the Range St. Louis West. They have got a great event this weekend. Yours truly will be there. I'll be there between noonish and 2 p.m. this Saturday. The 7th annual Customer Appreciation Day at the Range. Yep, right there in the heart of the county of St. Louis in Baldwin, right off of Manchester Road, right by the Baldwin Police Department. You know exactly where that is. Great stuff all day long. Free shooting lanes all day. They're doing a food drive for our active and retired military men and women. You can get all details on that at therangestl.com. They've got all kinds of free classes that day. A tourniquet class, learn some very important first aid. A 320-365 build class sponsored by Sig Sauer. Let's see. We've got the AR BCG assembly. That sounds really cool. Fastest time wins a free armorer's class, simulator shoot off, dunk tank, mortar game, balloon pop, on and on and on. Tons of giveaways, tons of special sale items, and of course, lots of cool free swag. Yeah. Check out the Range this Saturday. I will be there once again from noon to 2 p.m. All details at therangestl.com, therangestl.com.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Hey everybody, this is Paul Kurtman, host of the Paul Kurtman Show on News Talk STL, but I'm also the president of PR Kurtman Investments. The market is down and inflation is up. So if you have questions about the investments in your portfolio, please let me help. Just send me an email by visiting freedomportfolios.com. There's no cost. The market might be uncertain, but that doesn't mean you should be too. Contact me today, Paul Kurtman, by visiting freedomportfolios.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Tuesday is going to be the Bonchi and Branco Show. AF Branco, great editorial cartoonist at 1041. And Bonchi from Red State will join us right off the bat at 9:05.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Yeah.
What has changed?
Well, let's talk about what we've seen around the country, in particular after together with Joe Biden, when we won and he became president and I became vice president, which was as a result of some of the highest number of people voting that have ever voted in a presidential election.
What do you think about them apples, Chris?
You know, I have to agree with some of the critics, though. I did watch the interview yesterday. I watch all the Sunday Show interviews, and that was one of her better interviews that she gave yesterday. Usually she's just all word salad and all over the map, but I think she actually stayed up Saturday night and read the briefing books and was prepared. So it was amazing. You know, they talked about the filibuster in that clip, and if you remember, Joe Manchin at one time helped save it. But it's beginning to look like Joe Manchin might have got played.
Chris.
The whole thing is a joke.
Good God, we got to do something here, people.
It's not personal. It's strictly business.
My favorite black leader of all time is Frederick Douglass, who asked after emancipation, well, we just freed the blacks, now what are we going to do with them? And his answer was, leave us alone.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
You know, for the past 2 years of the Biden administration, Joe Manchin has been our savior. He saved us against a lot of these radical, progressive left policies, like the filibuster that we just heard. He said that in no way would he vote against the filibuster. If you also remember, he voted against the original Build Back Better plan, the $1 trillion boondoggle borrow from China spending plan that's supposed to get our country back on track. You know, Manchin has been under tremendous pressure. If you remember that he and Kristen Sinema, the progressive left, wanted to kick them out of the caucus. You also remember that a lot of left-wing groups actually ran ads against Joe Manchin in his own state. You know, that is not a way to win friends and influence people, as Dale Carnegie's famous book said. You know, someone on Schumer's staff should have read that and said, you know, you can always catch more flies with honey than you can vinegar. Of course, Manchin eventually caved and he voted for this Inflation Reduction Act. But the only reason that he voted for it was one caveat, that Schumer made a side deal with him saying that they would allow permitting, more drilling, essentially, for more oil and gas in the United States on federal land and things like that. They said they would include this in a future bill, but you know what? It apparently did not get it in writing, because now we've got a current resolution bill trying to keep the government funded. There's other stuff that they're trying to push at the last minute, and one of them is this permitting bill. But 70 Democrats have said that they will not support a permitting bill, leaving Joe Manchin kind of in the lurch. I think he got played. It's getting to the point that in order for this permitting bill to pass, they're going to need Republicans to come over and help bail them out, the same way that they did with the CHIPS bill, when Republicans were promised that there wouldn't be any future BBB bills. And so they gave their support to a CHIPS bill so it could pass. And Joe Manchin completely stabbed them in the back and negotiated a smaller Build Back Better bill. You know, I just think how ironic that is that, you know, Manchin double-crossed the Republicans. He assured them that he was not going to support a Build Back Better plan or a slimmed-down plan, and that gave the Republicans the go-ahead and support the CHIPS bill, as I said. And how ironic that now it looks like Joe Manchin is going to get played in the same way by being double-crossed because the progressives are not going to come over and support this bill. I think that is hilarious in my mind. And, you know, we liked Joe Manchin the first couple of years, but you know what, Joe? You got this coming to you. I'm glad that you got egg on your face, that you believe these progressives, and now they've hung you out in the lurch. And that's Chris's Corner. They completely played him. He didn't get it in writing, obviously.
Of course. I always thought at the beginning of this term of Joe Biden's that the question would always be, Chris, which way you gonna go, Joe?
Yeah.
I mean, and his fortunes and everyone else's would kind of rise and fall with him. And you're right. He was looking really good for his popularity in West Virginia was near 70%. That's unheard of in today's world. I feel like he threw it all away and didn't get much for it.
He got nothing. All he got was Schumer promising him, hey, we'll put a bill out with your permitting stuff, and I'll bring it up for a vote. But there's no guarantee that there were enough Democrats to pass it. It didn't seem like he got assurances from Schumer that he was going to twist some arms to get people to support it. I mean, he went out on his promise, and Schumer played him.
And I remember something that happened around that time. For whatever reason, it stuck in my mind, as some things, you know, unfortunately sometimes do, and I can't get them out. But there was a moment when that was all happening, and I remember there was an interview with Brett Baer and Joe Manchin. But Joe Manchin and Brett Baer have like this thing going on. They talk to each other all the time. And I think because Brett's always like trying to get into his head, trying to figure out where he's going to go. And Brett reminded Manchin of that exact same scenario, Chris, that you referenced that happened in a previous rendition of some bill. And he played Joe Manchin to Joe Manchin, where Joe Manchin was like, you know what? The idea of bringing this up and having a vote-a-rama is such a bad idea. And so Brett Baer was like, Joe, why do you think this time's going to be different? Why? He basically asked the question that you just made. He said, why aren't you? Brett Baer didn't say, why aren't you, are you going to get played? But he used words to that effect. And Manchin really had no response. I'm like, dude, you're walking out on a plank and there's nothing beneath you except the abyss.
And he knows his party more than anyone else. And you know they're against fossil fuels and drilling, and they want to go all green. I mean, did he really think that the liberals in the House and in the Senate were going to support permitting and drilling when they've made that part of their platform is to make us go green by 2030? It was a foolish mistake.
I wonder if Manchin has decided not to run for re-election for anything in West Virginia and has made some deal with somebody somewhere to do something else or to lobby. And maybe he's just like, well, I'm just not going to get reelected in this state. So I'm just going to give up the ghost, get something from the liberals for it. But he's hurt himself in the short run for sure.
He has hurt himself tremendously. But Tim, as you know, politics can be a lifetime. A couple of years from now, he could be, back in the saddle and back on top. Plus, the deal with Manchin, he has a long history in West Virginia politics. He's been a governor forever. I think he was lieutenant governor. He's been senator. So he's got a lot of goodwill built up among those folks, even though he kind of went left on him in a sense in this vote.
Yeah, so he's still got a couple years to repair and rehabilitate himself. He's not up for re-election until 2024.
And I bet you that was part of his calculation for doing this.
And you know what, though? That's a presidential year. That'll be a very interesting year to be running for re-election in a state like West Virginia. Interesting indeed.
Chris, Donald Trump and they're campaigning for him.
Yes, yes. Very interesting. Yeah, maybe then he becomes a Republican. Who knows? Chris, you gave us a lot to discuss and think about. Folks, if you'd like to chime in on that, give us a ring after we're back at 314-912-1019. We'll have the speaker stump speech with my reflections on 9/11 21 years hence, your phone calls, and more when we come back at 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
Hi, Sean Long for STL Fence Works. For over 50 years, our time-honored commitment to quality, service, and affordability make STL Fence Works the go-to authority for fence, deck, and leisure space projects. During these unsure times of severe inflation and supply shortages, you can depend on STL Fence Works to meet your needs. Being the #1 fence and deck contractor in the state, we've leveraged our position to make contract buy-ins hedging against price increases. Also, our buying power has allowed us to stockpile fence and deck material. There are no shortages at STL Fence Works. In fact, we have more fence and deck material on hand now than we have had at any time in our 50-year history. Lastly, our commitment to a quality and customer-first approach has never wavered. Your project will be completed by experienced craftsmen in a timely manner, and our lifetime warranty reinforces that commitment. STL Fence Works warranty surpasses anything offered in the industry. Visit stlfenceworks.com and allow us to bring your backyard dreams to life. As always, at STL Fence Works, your satisfaction is our passion.
Oh, Adam, you are so romantic. And I love the kitchen you found with all these great crumbs.
Yeah, baby, only the finest crumbs in the kitchen for my favorite aunt. Oh no, it's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
Call All Solutions Pest Control today at 636-486-7888 and learn more about our special $67 introductory offer, or visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Since 2007, the state of Missouri and local governments have handed out almost $5 billion in tax subsidies or abatements to private developers. That money could have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. And studies show these subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. If developers want to build a sports stadium or shopping mall, why should they be given our tax dollars to do it? It's time to reform economic development subsidies. The Show Me message has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
KLGY HD3 Clay, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting.
Lawyers for Donald Trump are fighting back against the Justice Department in a clash involving classified documents. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
The former president's attorneys are urging a judge to leave in place an order for a special master to review documents seized at the Mar-a-Lago estate last month. In new court papers, Trump's lawyers say a criminal investigation into the presence of top-secret information has spiraled out of control. They argue that the judge's order halting the Justice Department's review of the documents is sensible. Federal prosecutors plan to appeal the judge's order. Greg Clugston, Washington.
A majority of adults in the U.S. say healthcare is not handled well in this country.
A new poll from the Associated Press and ORC Center for Public Affairs Research reveals public satisfaction with the U.S. healthcare system is remarkably low, with fewer than half of Americans saying it's handled well in general. Only 12% say it's handled extremely or very well. Americans have similar views about health care for older adults.
Correspondent Jeremy House. Overall, the public gives even lower marks for handling of prescription drug costs, the quality of care at nursing homes, and mental health care. As Queen Elizabeth II's 4 children walked silently behind, a hearse carrying her flag-draped coffin along a clouded-lined street in the Scottish capital of Edinburgh to St. Giles Cathedral. There, a service of thanksgiving hailed the late monarch as a constant in all our lives for over 70 years. Crowds lined the street for the solemn procession, just as they did a day earlier when the Queen's coffin was slowly driven down from Balmoral Castle. On Wall Street, the Dow by 229 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance. For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-940-6161. That's 1-800-940-6161. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-940-6161. SelectQuote. We shop, you save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's new home-style French toast sticks. Wendy's new home-style French toast sticks are so good, some are saying they're better than their mom's French toast. Perfectly crispy on the outside, perfectly fluffy on the inside, perfectly perfect in every way. Try Wendy's new home-style French toast sticks and see if they're better than your mom's. East and westbound 5570 are moving again at Illinois 162, but traffic remains jammed up on eastbound US 40 between 5570 and Troy O'Fallon Road. Construction continues to jam up eastbound 70 in the city from Grand to the Illinois Bank of the Museo Veterans Bridge, the right lane down. Southbound 55 slow from 44 to Potomac. Heavy westbound 44 Elm to Big Bend. Westbound 64 backs up Lindbergh to 270, and you're moving again on westbound 70 between 5th Street and Cave Springs. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another cool night tonight. We dip down to the mid-50s. About 56 degrees will do it for the low. And then 82, a little warmer day in the afternoon. Sunshine, lighter winds, not as gusty with those winds for Tuesday, but a lovely day. It does get a little warmer each day we go this week, though. Wednesday's high 85 and lots of sunshine. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you're 19 or older with certain underlying medical conditions such as asthma or diabetes, you can get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia, a potentially serious bacterial lung disease that can disrupt your life for weeks. If you're 65 or older, it is also recommended you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. No matter the season, talk to your doctor about vaccination today and learn more at lung.org/protect yourself. A message from the American Lung Association in collaboration with Pfizer.
Furnished by the American Lung Association.
Are you in trouble with the IRS? Clarify
Sarah was too until she called Civic Tax Relief.
Dealing with the IRS was a stressful time. When I got a hold of Civic Tax Relief, all that stress was taken away. It made the process easy.
Call for a free consultation. 800-841-0908. 800-841-0908. Discover all the relief programs you qualify for in the first free call. 800-841-0908. 800-841-0908. The candidates.
We're going to win this campaign.
The issues.
Gas prices, Biden inflation.
The election news, analysis, and opinion you won't get anywhere else. Decision 2022 happens.
There's a backlash coming
on News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Making my life worse. And as you say, you're trying to change. You have accountability. You have the purse strings. You pay the bills.
Right. What we were successful at is saving all those jobs and rescuing almost all of those businesses. Right. So we now have the lowest unemployment.
That's a lie. I lost my business. Please don't lie.
I said almost.
Thank you.
Almost.
Pipelines were closed down. And the president sold oil to China.
We've been selling oil to China for the last 20 years.
Yeah, but in this crisis, he shouldn't be doing that.
It doesn't actually make a difference to the price of gas.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here at 5:08 p.m. at 101.9 News Talk STL.
Two things there. One, he's contradicting his president because the president says that releasing the oil strategic reserves does have an effect on gas. And he wasn't the respondent guy wasn't concerned with that. He's concerned. Why are we selling our oil to China?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to. So for context, folks, that was a group of veterans. I'm assuming at some sort of town hall that Democratic Congressman Tom Malinowski was making. New Jersey Congressman Malinowski was holding. And Chris, those were some veterans on, in and around the anniversary of 9/11 who I thought were making some very important points about the foreign policy or lack thereof that Joe Biden has had in the White House.
Yeah, it's been kind of make it up as you go along. And the worst part of that foreign policy, or worst example, was the Afghanistan withdrawal, where unfortunately we had 13 soldiers that were killed at that gate. One of them was a local hero.
And that's exactly what former U.S. Senator Jim Talent said earlier on our show, that it is a bumbling, stumbling lack of a foreign policy. And no one should be surprised by this, because We've been warned time and time again by some very nonpartisan and bipartisan people. I don't say we, I use the royal we, as in maybe you independent and Democratic voters. People like Bob Gates, the most famous critic, a defense secretary under two very different administrations, under George W. Bush and under Barack Obama, who said in a book, he took the time to write it down. It wasn't like an off-the-cuff hot mic moment. Joe Biden's been on the wrong side of every foreign policy decision he's had to make in the 40-plus years, now I think we can say 50-plus years, that he's been in public service. When Gates was asked about that 4 years later in a very famous 60 Minutes interview, he doubled down on it and said yes. And everyone is now bewildered that we're in such a pickle on so many problems around the world.
And it's real. That really wasn't a partisan quote that Bob Gates said. Joe Biden was against the original Gulf War of retaliating and going to Afghanistan, and taking care of business with the Taliban. He was against that. Joe Biden, as vice president, was against the operation to get Osama bin Laden. That's just two glaring examples right there. Bob Gates in his book mentions many others.
And this issue of renewing a deal that just about everyone except the most partisan left-leaning Democrat would say was a bad deal, the Iranian nuclear deal. The Iranian nuclear deal seems to be some little pet project of John Kerry, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's, and they're just mad that Donald Trump took their binky away. And so they're kind of doing the same thing they've been doing the last 2 years. Well, Donald Trump did X, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to do Y. Just because, whether it's a good reason to do or not. And everyone, nearly everyone and anyone with any sort of foreign policy chops say that is a bad deal. Jim Talent, again, earlier today said, let me get this straight. We're going to give them hundreds of billions of dollars, ask for nothing in return, and basically not stop them from developing a nuclear missile. Yeah, what a great deal. I'd take it too if I was the Iranians.
Exactly. And they're under this mistaken mindset. And again, we talk about this where there's two different ways of thinking. There's a Western way of thinking. There's a Middle Eastern way of thinking, a capitalist way of thinking, a Marxist way of thinking. I think that John Kerry and the liberals think that if we show a good turn or a good measure by saying, you know what, here's billions of dollars that we confiscated from you after the Iran hostage situation. We'll give you that money back, and see, we're nice people. You don't build bombs to kill us or attack our soldiers. I think that just shows their naivete, that if we show goodwill to them and olive branch of giving their money back, then they're going to get away from their mission to blow us all up, basically. And it's naive as hell.
Yeah, and it especially is now that we've learned this lesson, because you can be naive once, but then when you're repeating history and being naive a second time, I think a lot of us thought, we weren't really around, but in studying history, a lot of our leaders thought that, like what Nixon thought. Well, if we just open ourselves up to countries like China and Iran and North Korea, well, then they'll accept our way of thinking. If we build enough McDonald's in Beijing and Tehran, then everything will be peachy keen, and everyone will go, wow, boy, the Americans just do everything so right. Let's us do that too. No. Yeah. They don't think that way. They think the communist Chinese are governed by a very small group of oligarchs who run that country in one way. Iran is run by a bunch of theocratic mullahs who do not accept our way of life, period, the end. We now need to accept that's true, right?
I hope so.
We shouldn't be naive about this anymore.
I mean, they held our people for 444 days. During the Gulf Wars, they were the main ones that were building these IEDs and providing the armaments to build those. I mean, they've killed more American soldiers than Al-Qaeda and the people that we're supposed to be fighting against, just by them giving these ordinances and bombs to these terrorists.
You're exactly right. They are the world's largest state sponsor of terror.
And nobody disputes that.
Right.
Nobody says, well, maybe. No, everyone says that.
Maybe it's Sri Lanka Swahili, No, it's Iran. Yeah. So I played that little clip of those very disgruntled, properly so, veterans who were cross-examining that congressman in New Jersey, because this is the weekend of 9/11, the 21st anniversary, and it's never in the rearview mirror, is it? Because it's going to happen again next year. Next year we will have another memorialization. And it will be back on, I don't think next year's a leap year, is it? No, it's 23. So it'll be back on Monday. And I think Chris was right. We got distracted this year from what we normally do. Normally you wake up on a weekday morning, 5 out of the 7 years, right? 5 out of the last, multiple times. And they're reading those names when you turn on the television, and they're ringing that bell at ground zero. Well, on Sundays, people do different things. They get up, they go to church, they have family events, they play golf, they get very distracted, which is why I essentially forced myself to sit down Sunday afternoon and be like, okay, this is 9/11, and we need to take a look at this. So I'm going to give my short reflections on September 11th.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
So that's another reason we need communism.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
We all have moments in life that are either that bring such joy and elation, or shock the conscience, that we always remember where we were and what we were doing. And I think this is true of both happy and sad events, right? You remember some of the most joyful times in your life, or news that you heard and where you were. Likewise, we remember, unfortunately, we very vividly remember disasters, whether they be natural or man-made. All of us, I would dare say, who were alive at that time and conscious and able to have some thought, hopefully, the age of, 3 or 4 or 5 or so, you probably knew, even if you were very young at that time, the way your parents or siblings may have reacted, you probably knew something was wrong on September the 11th, 2001. I had just returned from having lived for nearly 1 decade in the great city of New York. Well, it was great. I hope it's great once again someday. I spent a lot of time up there. I attended Fordham University in the Bronx, and then law school out on Long Island in the county, in the borough of Queens, in Jamaica, New York, where St. John's University is. And then I worked for 2 years in Nassau County for the prosecuting attorney's office of the county of Nassau. So I have a lot of memories, have a lot of very good friends. And I was in New York on what I often refer to as 9/11 Part 1, the prequel. And that was in 1993, when the World Trade Center was bombed from beneath for the first time. That was a bit of a trial run. Remember, well, some of you may remember that a fertilizer bomb went off in the basement of the World Trade Center back in 1993. I was a young college student at Fordham University, and I was on our student-run Fordham University Emergency Medical Services team. I had gone through all the training and was very proud to be a New York State registered and certified EMT. And I remember that all the bells and whistles went off that afternoon. We had something called the MARS system, which was a mutual aid response system. And believe it or not, the student-run volunteers of Fordham EMS answered the all call. Everybody was summoned down to the World Trade Center. It was a really big deal. I was put in charge of our campuses that day, and so I became the chief on charge, and a lot of my colleagues went down to the World Trade Center. We were all very worried. We were all very concerned. Who in the world was setting off bombs in the lower levels of the bowels of the World Trade Center? That was a warning sign to all of us. I think some of our most intelligent services in our government knew that something was awry, something was amiss, something was being planned. People began to study this. Reports were drawn up. There was a growing threat that many felt was coming out of the Middle East, but we didn't know where or whence it would came, and who would have imagined that the conventional wisdom of hijackers taking over planes and landing them was no longer, and asking for money or hostages to be returned, was no longer going to be the modus operandi of this new form of terrorism. Who would have thought that there would be people so depraved to humanity and civilization itself that they would turn airliners into jet-fueled missiles and crash them into some of our most important monuments? That's what the Twin Towers were to me. They represented the ultimate in American achievement of the free market success of our nation, that said no matter who you were or where you came from, You could come to that little island of Manhattan. You could work your way up the ladder in law or finance, and you could become a very successful person as a citizen of the United States of America. I traveled for many years down into the bowels of the World Trade Center. I took the subway. I took the red line down into the bowels of the World Trade Center, walked up through those stairs, walked up to the top, walked over to Broadway, walked down Broadway where that famous Statue of the Bull is, and I worked in the old office building that John D. Rockefeller used to occupy back in the days. I clerked at a little law firm there on the 21st floor. That area of town was very known to me. It was very special to me. It was part of my formative years. I was back home in 2001 in September, and I was probably at a place that was so different you couldn't believe it. I was down on my grandparents' farm in the middle of a field in the middle of nowhere in Southwest Missouri at one of the barns, about to take the trucks out for the day and help my dad and my uncle with something in the fields. I used to go down with my dad every month back when we were down doing that. And my uncle Alan, who is unfortunately no longer with us, came up to me and said he had the AM radio on in one of the old pickups. And it was a bright blue day here in Missouri and in New York. And my Uncle Alan said to me, he said, Tim, they said a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. Does that make any sense to you? I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what. It just didn't feel right. I said to Alan, I said, no. I said, it does not make sense. There's too many safeguards. They don't let people in that airspace. Maybe a helicopter maybe could have had an accident because they used to fly around up there, but not an airliner. We quickly knew after the second plane hit that our world was going to change forever. As I said earlier, fortunately did not have any direct connections to anyone who was killed in that day. I find that remarkable, being that I'd lived up there for almost a decade. But I did, one of my very best friends from law school, his brother, my best friend Ed's brother, was working in finance and was, I believe, in World Trade 4 or 7, one of the neighboring towers right next door. He said the building shook twice when those airplanes hit. And then the people realized that they needed to get the heck out. He made it down multiple flights of stairs down to the street level and was one of those individuals that you see on some of that old footage running northward up Broadway as the ash fell down on them and it looked like snow was raining down from the sky. Hearing those stories now makes me shiver and have as much of emotion as I did 21 years ago. Being down on the farm, being out in the middle of nowhere in flyover country, I didn't have that feeling right away. It was only when I came back home a couple days later to my home in Eureka and was able to watch all of that in full Technicolor on a big screen TV. My grandma had a little tiny black and white. That the full reality of that day began to sink in. I became very emotional. Yeah, I shed a tear or two. I felt as if the very country had been attacked, as if our soul had been rendered and torn apart. Within a few days after that, George W. Bush went to Ground Zero, stood on that pile of rubble, and in a very impromptu speech, told the world that we would be united, that tyranny and evil and hatred would not prevail. I hope you have those same feelings that I did 21 years later and take some time every year from now until the good Lord calls you home to remember that we are the United States of America. We do stand united. We can be a united people. We just have to remember how to do it once again. And that's the stump speech for today.
Here. Good.
September the
Good
12th.
That was a good one.
All right, folks. What do we have next? We have to give an update on a terrible incident that happened here in St. Louis.
And I texted you the mayor's statement that she has put out on this, which sounds like she's blaming the police, but we'll get into that's a good teaser.
There was a shooting in North County over the weekend, North City over the weekend. Chris is concerned about it. I am as well. We want to tell you all about it and how we can maybe avoid a Ferguson Part 2 when we come back here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 New.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another cool night tonight. We dip down to the mid-50s. About 56 degrees will do it for the low. And then 82, a little warmer day in the afternoon. Sunshine, lighter winds, not as gusty with those winds for Tuesday, but a lovely day. It does get a little warmer each day we go this week, though. Wednesday's high 85 and lots of sunshine. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag. Wendy's Biggie Bag, still just $5. Get a double stack, junior bacon cheeseburger, or crispy chicken BLT, plus 4-piece nuggets, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices are higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Construction slowing southbound 55 to 44 split to Potomac. You're crowded westbound 44 from Elm to Big Bend. Looks like there's a crash on westbound 64 west of McKnight. That's backing up traffic already east of McKnight. Volume westbound 64 between 364 and I-70. Stop and go eastbound 70 Adelaide to the Illinois Bank up the Museo Veterans Bridge where the right lane is closed. Westbound 70 backs up Lindbergh to 270. Crowded westbound 70 at Route K. And eastbound 270 slow between Lindbergh and New Florissant. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL.
Columbo here for Agers Heating and Air Conditioning. Putting an Agers system in our new home was our number one priority because Agers' number one priority is doing right by the customer. St. Louis weather is unpredictable, but no matter what's happening outside, having a new HVAC system from Agers will ensure your family is safe and comfortable inside. Whether you need repairs or replacement, Agers has you covered with the clarity and attention to detail your home deserves. Contact Agers now at 636-242-6515 or through their website, callagers.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Jeffrey Toobin is leaving CNN. He's finally retiring after the big Zoom meeting thing. But I didn't realize, Ken, that he was in The Karate Kid. I didn't realize that.
Oh, Jeffrey Toobin?
Yeah.
What did he do?
Wax on.
Wax off.
That's right.
He said it. You got me.
Gotcha. And he said it, I didn't say it. So that's great. So you're in trouble, not me.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Are you looking for the cheapest prices on car insurance? Then call the Cheap Car Insurance Hotline right now. Hey, you're guaranteed to save money on your car insurance. Most car insurances can be canceled at any time. That means if you find a better deal, you can switch right away. We're not just one company. We offer most of the major brands of car insurance. We're like a discount supermarket for car insurance. And it doesn't matter if you have a good record or a bad driving record. Our agents are experts at finding you the right car insurance for your needs. Our average customer saves hundreds of dollars a year when they call us to switch. So why don't you make this 100% free call right now and see how much you can save on your car insurance? Paid for by AIS Insurance.
800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. 800-721-5741. That's 800-721-5741.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
through Monday. We're glad that you made it along with us. Chris, some disturbing news out of North City that occurred over the weekend. The headline, Chris, has gone viral. It's up at NBCnews.com now.
Oh, I didn't know it was national now.
Based on what you told me, I did a quick search just to see what would pop up. NBC News reporting, let's see, when did they issue this statement? Today. September the 12th, 2:49 p.m. Ooh, hold your breath. St. Louis police fatally shoot a 16-year-old who they say was reaching for a gun. That is the headline at NBCnews.com.
Yeah, I knew this was local. I didn't know it had gone national yet. I saw this story this morning. It broke about late morning, maybe 10:30, somewhere around there. This incident happened last night around 11:30 p.m. From what I read, apparently there's disturbance at a gas station, and they could tell that a bunch of kids had guns, plain clothes, police officers rolled up. This particular gentleman walked away very quickly, quote unquote. They went after him, and then he ran across the property and he ducked in a hole of a fence. The police chased after him. Apparently, the young man fell, and that's when a gun was dislodged. Apparently, the gun was near him. The police say he reached for the gun, and he was shot twice and killed. When I listened to some of the tape of the mother was saying that why didn't they just grab the kid and hold him or something to keep him from getting the gun so he couldn't shoot them? She's claiming that these were plainclothesmen and they had vests on, that black vest that said police on the front and back. But she's saying that her son didn't know that they were police. They didn't identify themselves. So as I said when I came in at the beginning of the show, Tim, before we started, I'm really, really worried about this situation, that this could be another potential Michael Brown situation here.
You've got a great memory, because I just read that entire story and you just recited the entire story that I'm reading on Fox 2 now.
I think because I'm just riveted, because it's in my soul. It's like I feel another Michael Brown situation coming up with this.
Did they recover a firearm at the scene?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Was it loaded?
That
I'm
not sure. That I'm not sure.
Gun. It says,
go
ahead.
Here's the two paragraphs in the NBC News story, which sum up exactly what Chris just said. Just kind of encapsulates this. So they said Ross, the young man who was killed, Ross, armed with a gun, according to the police report, walked away quickly to an alley. The detectives followed him, announced they were police officers. Ross ran, tripped, and fell, dropping a pistol, police said. As the detectives approached, Ross reached for the pistol, the report said, prompting both officers to shoot him. He was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a lot of fact questions that will have to be determined to see whether or not the story is, number one, if this is all accurate or not. And if this was a situation where the police would have, I think the standard is if a reasonable person would have, in that same similar situation, would believe that they were in imminent thought of being killed. Now, remember, police officers can fire upon someone on a different standard than a normal civilian. So you have to also take into context, Chris, as you said, they were called to this gas station. It's 11 p.m. at night. It's on a Sunday. There was apparently a drug deal going down, and there were multiple individuals there armed with firearms. So if you put yourself in the context of the police officers, they're going in thinking this is going to be trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
when I was listening to the testimony, for lack of better words, from the parents, they were alluding that there weren't body camera footage, if I remember correctly. And I'm just wondering, maybe we can have a police officer, St. Louis City police officer that is listening. Do plainclothes police officers wear body cams?
Oh, that's a good, an undercover. You mean an undercover cop?
Yeah. They were plain clothes. The only thing that identified them as police is they had black vests on, saying police on the front and back. But other than that, they just had some jeans and some tennis shoes.
But if there's a weapon, and now this is a legal question that I don't know much about.
Well, you better be looking at Tim Jones.
I'm like, what do you think, Chris? If there is a weapon and the police officers see a weapon, isn't that the cause? Isn't that the cause to shoot if you see a weapon?
If the evidence bears out, if it bears out that there was a weapon and it was loaded, that's my question. Was it loaded?
Mhm.
And I don't even know if it has to be loaded
Yeah.
or not. If it's a weapon, identified a weapon, and someone has possession of the weapon, and it sounds like he dropped it and fell and then was reaching back for it, the police in that situation may be justified to return deadly force because they are in imminent danger of being shot themselves.
Yes, that's what I would.
And what
think.
I'm afraid is, Tim, is we're going to start seeing the same type of arguments that we see from the community in these type of instances where, why didn't you shoot him in the leg?
Right.
To
Joe
stop
Biden
him.
responds.
Why
Joe
didn't you?
Biden say that?
Why didn't you shoot him in the knee, or why didn't you try to subdue him or something? Which the mother said, if the gun, he was on the ground and the gun was near him and he was reaching for it. The mother is saying that why didn't the officers jump on top of him to keep him away from the gun? Why was your first initial response was to shoot to kill? So
I don't think that's the training.
Yeah.
I think that's the answer. Maybe a good.
That is the answer.
Might be really good to get a Sheriff Marshak on this week, or one of our friends from the major crime unit, or Tim Fitch, or someone of that sort, to explain if this was a hypothetical, what would be the proper police response in this situation? These guys aren't Dirty Harry or Charles Bronson,
Or they're not Lone Ranger where they're going
Right.
to shoot the gun out of someone's hand.
I'm going to jump forward and I'm going to kick the gun out of the way.
I hate to. But even when you run from the police, that is also a motive, not for you to die, but for suspicion to be aroused. Like when you run from the police officers and you don't. Sorry, I have to sneeze. And you don't stay in place. Isn't that also some kind of motive for the police officers to be like,
it's suspicious as hell.
This isn't good.
I used to have this great, he was this little Italian guy. He was my criminal, let me think, was he my evidence professor? No, he was my criminal law professor. Frank Palestino.
Ooh.
Little Professor Palestino. And he would say, in every situation, we would be studying a case, and he would say, okay, now let's look at the specificity of the evidence. And he would start off by, a lot of the situations were the same.
Can you do that again?
Yeah,
That was-
look at the specificity of the situation. And he'd say, okay, number one, we're in a high crime area. Okay, I think they're in a high crime area.
Check.
It's 11:30 p.m. on a school night, and we're dealing with a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Probably give another check there.
Unfortunate.
There are firearms involved.
Check.
Okay. There is a suspicion of drug activity because these were drug enforcement officers.
yeah.
So,
You forgot one.
Yes.
He ran.
He ran.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they
He
ran. They all did.
And so what Frank would, you think about this and you go, the first reaction, Chris, you're right. People go, why in the world was this 16-year-old shot by the police? Okay. Fair question.
Yeah.
Now do the Palestino analysis, and you start going through each of these little boxes one by one, and you go, all right, then now that's a different situation, isn't it? When we analyze the fact, I'm sorry, but police officers, they don't have time to sit here and do all this, but their training kicks in and they react, they are, I would imagine, I'm totally guessing now, they're likely going to say, if the evidence is true that there was a firearm at that scene, they're going to say, we saw a firearm. Yes, the firearm was dropped. The the perpetrator was reaching back for the firearm. We shot him before he could shoot us, is probably what they're going to say.
Yeah. What about the argument? And I know it doesn't seem plausible, but if he is on the ground and the gun is in reach, it's not close to him, but he has to reach for it, something. Did it have to be, and I'm just throwing this out here, did it have to necessarily be a kill shot, or could you have, as they say, shot him in the leg or shot him in the knee when he's laying down prostrate? Is that an easier shot maybe to shoot someone in the knee?
It's a great question. The training though is you shoot for body of mass.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're not necessarily shooting to kill, but you're also not trying to shoot to maim. You're shooting at body of mass.
Right.
So they teach you to shoot for the widest part of the person,
right?
Which likely means a chest wound.
Tashara Jones, the mayor, has...
Chris, the statement's very interesting.
She has released a statement, and I'll read it to you. She says, I have been briefed on last night's officer-involved shooting in Old North St. Louis. Losing your youth to violence shows how our system has failed them time and time again. Reflecting on the circumstances that led up to this young man's death breaks my heart. But as a mayor and as a mother of a teenage son, this comes just after a family lost their father, Bada Ali, in an officer-involved shooting last week. Oh, my God, this is horribly written. I just had to say that. Our communities rightfully have questions about these incidents. The Force Investigation Unit is handling both cases and will pass information on to the Circuit Attorney's Office. That didn't give me a lot of confidence. And then on to the Civilian Oversight Board. Officers involved have been placed on administrative duty. I have also directed the Public Safety Department to release body-worn camera footage where available to family as soon as possible. Finally, alongside the St. Louis Board of Aldermen, my administration is working to strengthen oversight because building trust through transparency and accountability is essential. I remain fully committed to delivering effective oversight of our police department, as well as alternative responses that connect the right professionals to the right call for those experiencing mental health crisis and similar challenges. What's your view on that, Tim?
So the sentence that jumps out at me, and I think you made a reference to this during our break, is the second sentence. I want to extrapolate from, maybe we can expound upon this. Losing our youth to violence shows how our system has failed them time and time again.
Yeah.
Boy, Chris, you could take that about 12 different ways, right?
Definitely. I mean, this isn't a gang shooting. This is not some heat of passion shooting. This was a person in the commission of a crime who shouldn't have had a firearm and posed a danger to the police. And unfortunately, he lost his life. I mean, that's law enforcement.
16-year-olds old having a gun.
Yeah. So if she's saying the system, I'm not sure she can reference the criminal justice system, because the system that failed this young man was not the police on the forefront, right?
Exactly.
I mean, what was he doing at 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday night with firearms in a gas station parking lot?
Yeah.
At 16. That's
At
not
16.
So I just looked it up just to make sure. 18 is when you can get a legal firearm.
Sure, yeah.
So
there's a law against what he was doing.
So doesn't this also go to show that, like, a 16-year-old can get a gun from the black market on the streets if they want to get a gun? Like, that's also crazy to think about.
But we need more gun control, Katie. We got to get these guns off the street.
Nuts.
Yeah.
That's the argument.
This one shouldn't have been on the street because he shouldn't be in possession of it. So I don't know. This is a horrible incident.
And this is a potential tinderbox. I'm not wanting destruction or riots and anything.
No.
I want peace, but this just... You get nervous when there hasn't been an incident like this in a long time, because it's almost like people are waiting for something to kick off something like this so they can get buck wild and crazy and loot. And I'm just afraid this may be the linchpin for people to get crazy.
We did have enough craziness in the summer of 2020
that
I thought it would hold us over for a little bit longer, but apparently not.
Let's hope cooler heads prevail.
I hope so.
And maybe more of the evidence can come out in the next few days.
The mayor's statement is not helpful.
She could help matters if she wanted to. That's for sure. All right, we've got Lee on the line, and we'll take his call when we come back. And you're also welcome to join our conversation as we wrap up this 5 o'clock hour. 314-912-1019. Give us a holler on this issue or anything.
But the job site throws its way. Even if you have to replace a board, LP Smart Site products are designed to bend. Side with advanced durability. Side with LP Smart Site trim and siding. Visit lpcorp.com/pro. Accident cleared westbound 64 between McKnight and Clayton Morrison. Traffic still a solid jam at Kings Highway. Pockets eastbound 64 Lindbergh to Big Bend and southbound 170 on the brakes at the Forest Park Parkway. You're jammed eastbound 70 Salisbury to the Illinois Bank at the Museo Veterans Bridge. Slow westbound 70 at St. Charles Rock Road. Heavy pockets southbound 55 from 44 to Potomac, and accident cleared eastbound 270 at Lindbergh. I'm Tori Lyons from the News Talk STL Traffic Center.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton with your first alert forecast. Another cool night tonight. We dip down to the mid-50s. About 56 degrees will do it for the low. And then 82, a little warmer day in the afternoon. Sunshine, lighter winds, not as gusty with those winds for Tuesday, but a lovely day. It does get a little warmer each day we go this week, though. Wednesday's high 85 and lots of sunshine. That's the latest first alert forecast. I'm News 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The news and talk.
Unsecured borders.
The MAGA Republicans are destroying America.
I mean, are you kidding me?
That matters to St. Louis.
The Democrats,
They're being exposed.
a government that's held accountable.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Since 2007, the state of Missouri and local governments have handed out almost $5 billion in tax subsidies or abatements to private developers. That money could have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. And studies show these subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. If developers want to build a sports stadium or shopping mall, why should they be given our tax dollars to do it? It's time to reform economic development subsidies. The Show Me message has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hey, Columbo here for Rockwood Charcoal. I love to grill and definitely prefer using charcoal over gas. And ever since I met Jonathan Heslop and he introduced me to his product, Rockwood Lump Charcoal, I can't use anything else. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory and has been the nationally highest consumer-ranked charcoal for several years. So you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. Doesn't get any better than that. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Start a podcast for your business today with Epic STL Podcasts. Engage existing and potential customers, build trust in your brand, and drive traffic to your business. Log on to newstalkstl.com and click on the Epic STL Podcast button to learn more.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
On Tuesday, big media says Democrats have all the momentum going into the midterms. So what should conservatives do to win in November?
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
A secure border, in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. But there are still a lot of problems that we are trying to fix, given the deterioration that happened over the last 4 years. We also have to put in place a law and a plan for a pathway for citizenship. Liar! Liar! Liar!
So I agree with Chris that she made more sense than she has in previous interviews because she put 3 sentences together. I do not agree that what she said substantively makes any sense, though, if that makes sense, because her responses fly in the face of the reality that people see on TV every day, right? So yeah, they definitely worked with her, and you could like see the wheels spinning in her head as she very carefully walked through that statement. However, she made a big mistake there, and I wonder if anybody else caught it. So, at the beginning of every administration, of course, you blame everything on the previous administration, and the Biden administration has definitely done that with Trump. But you can say things like over the last 4 years, does she realize that they've been in power now for 2 years? When she said that phrase right there, over the last 4 years, 2 of those are yours, honey.
Don't forget.
Exactly.
Forget about it.
I hate to digress for a second from these important topics, but you played Blondie, and Blondie is from my youth, my high school, junior high years. Blondie's 77 years old. That's just insane to me. That I just remember her being all pretty and hot growing up.
What?
Blondie's 77 years old. Can you believe that too?
I can't
Blondie's
either.
70. She's almost 80.
And God rest the soul of Olivia Newton-John, who was the same generation.
Yes.
I always got the two of them growing up. I always got them mixed up.
Really?
Did anybody else get them mixed up? I don't know. It was in my head. I had to think about separating them as two different people.
They do. They do have a similar look, and it's
Back
also
then they did. Yeah. But Olivia Newton-John unfortunately passed away from cancer a couple weeks ago. But to be in their 70s, and for Blondie to be all closer to 80.
Yeah.
What in the?
Same with Stevie Nicks. Stevie Nicks is 74.
You seeing that?
I am too. She's
Cyndi
74.
Lauper's 69.
Jeez Louise.
Who was Kim Wilde?
Kim Wilde. That sounds
Blondie's
familiar.
name is Deborah Harry.
Deborah Harry, that's right.
Deborah Harry.
I forgot that.
Deborah Harry,
I
that's
should know.
right.
I had that record that you played. I had that 45 back in the day. Wow.
The tide is
Keep on going, Tim.
I used to watch American Bandstand.
Little Friday night videos back in the day.
Friday night videos, man.
That is
Can I tell you, I lived for Friday night videos.
Yeah.
So growing up in the outskirts of Eureka, we didn't even live in Eureka proper. When I grew up, we were on the outskirts of Eureka. We didn't have cable, satellite. We couldn't even get it.
Yeah.
We couldn't physically get it. I had this one neighbor who had this freaking satellite dish in his yard that was bigger than me.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, are you calling the UFOs? I mean, what's going on
We're just
here?
trying to get cable.
So, Chris, the only thing I could do was watch Friday night videos. I didn't have no MTV.
Friday night video. I think they would play the top 10 songs maybe, and it was about an hour and a half, couple hours show. But yeah, Friday night video. That's late. This is late 80s stuff, Katie.
I was gonna say
Mid to
mine
late 80s.
for 90s. I didn't have cable either, so I missed out on this completely. But in the 90s, you had the VH1 setup. You had the top 50 for the VH1, and MTV was in there too. But MTV was making the jump into reality TV during that time. So they were doing some of those replays for reality TV where VH1 was still like, let's do some music videos. Let's play some music.
Were you around for Yo MTV Raps? Is that before your time?
That has to be before my time.
Okay.
Good.
I think that was
MTV
80s.
Raps.
Yo MTV. Yeah, that was the show, man. That was a very, very popular show. Yo MTV Raps.
I still remember the beginning of Friday night videos. The graphic was the guy strapped to the phonograph turntable. And he would spin off of it, and he'd be free, and it would be like a little cartoon.
I don't remember that at all.
They may have played the Buggles song. Stella may remember this. Video Killed the Radio Star. I think they used to play that somewhere with that Friday night video segment. So yeah, I kind of live for that. You remember that, Stell?
Yeah, the song that kicked off MTV.
Oh, that kicked off MTV. That's what kicked off MTV. Yeah, they had a different song for Friday night videos then.
Okay.
But yeah, the Buggles. Video Killed it.
You're right.
Were they a one-hit wonder, Stell?
Yeah, I think they kind of were.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Buggles is not like a name that jumps into your mind. Yeah.
And the other show back then, and I may be going earlier than you guys, was Midnight Special.
Oh, I remember Midnight. But you know what? I could never stay up because it came on at midnight. and the thing that I remember about Midnight Special, and this is why Kiss is such an iconic band, because in the 70s when they were around, you never hardly saw them. Never saw them on anything, but every now and then they would be on Midnight Special or Don Kirshner's rock concerts.
Oh, yeah.
And they would be on there, but the show would come on at midnight, and I'm like 9, 10, or 11 years old. I'm struggling. I'm struggling to stay up to midnight.
I'll tell you, the age that we live in now is really remarkable with streaming and on demand and all, and I love it. But I mean, I'll tell you, there was something about what Jeff Allen would call appointment television back in the day where you had to make sure you were in front of the TV set at a certain period of time on a certain day. Katie's like, what are you talking
You know
about?
what, though? What's crazy is that the streaming has adopted that to some degree, which is what they're doing with Game of Thrones.
That's true.
To some degree. It's not to the degree where you have the commercials leading up to the hour that you want to listen to so that you're getting amped and you're full of this energy. But I mean, I think appointment listening ended probably 2004,
but they're trying to bring it back to an extent
to streaming. They're trying to bring it back to streaming
to increase numbers on a certain day.
Yes.
Before we run out of time, Chris, Lee wanted to comment on what we were talking about in the corner and such. And I'm sorry, in our last segment. Lee, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You're on the air. Go right ahead. Oh crap! Did we lose Lee?
Oh, sorry, Lee.
Lee, are you still there?
We forgot about
Lee was like, they're talking about music videos. They're not going to. Lee was mainly calling to say, hey, the police are trained to shoot to stop, period, the end. So he's like, that's just what they're trained to do. So I don't know if Lee had a criminal justice background or a police law enforcement background, but he was like saying, yes, that's what they're trained to do.
I feel guilty because I was like asking for callers, somebody with a law enforcement background, give us some.
We got distracted.
Some of there, and
we got distracted.
We got MTV on the brain.
We got MTV on the brain.
Lee, if you'd like to call back tomorrow, we'll be happy to take your call because Chris, I bet you will be talking about this tomorrow as well. So, all right, we got what, Katie, 2 minutes
2
left?
minutes.
All right, 2 minutes left.
You know what we got? Tonight is a big
Yes.
vote.
Tell us what's going on tonight.
Tonight, the St. Louis County Republican Central Committee, that's a mouthful, will be voting on the new Republican candidate to take on Sam Page. And you want to listen to our Twitter, go to our Twitter page or first, because I will have who it is before anyone else, because my wife will be voting and
it's an exclusive.
Yeah, so it will be an exclusive. You will find out who the county executive candidate will be on newstalkstl.com
on
Twitter
our socials,
page.
Twitter and Facebook. Look at our socials.
Chris, without betraying any confidences, can you tell us whether or not the committee will have enough people to consider?
There's plenty of people to consider.
Okay.
Yes, there's
All right.
3 to 5 people that I'm
Okay.
hearing that are putting in.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Pays
pretty good, Katie.
does.
160, what, 180, what,
That's
what's it,
interesting. I'll put my
150?
name in.
I think 180 or so. Yeah, it's a pretty good
It
deal.
pays pretty good.
I'm not even in the county, but
It's
I'll
got
do it.
benefits.
Come on.
I got asked and I said no.
Yeah, Tim, you were like a name that everybody kept saying.
I just look, if I was in a different place in my life, I absolutely consider it. I'm very flattered by the requests. I had somebody again ask me today if I was running. They're like, come on. I had my chiropractor's assistant ask me. I walked in the office the other day. She's like, so you're going to run for county executive? Right? I said, Mrs. Jones will fillet me. Yes,
I think Ken was trying to get Victor.
Yes.
That'd be great.
I could get behind that.
I
That
could
would be a
too.
lot of fun.
Oh, so fun. So
oh my
fun. But then
goodness, we'd have a
lose
good
him.
time. Yeah, we would.
So,
we don't want to lose anybody, Well, Chris, keep us updated on
I
that.
will. Tune into our socials.
Folks, please be monitoring newstalkstl.com, at newstalkstl on Twitter for all of that news that will continue after we're out of here. Hey, in the 6 o'clock hour, we've got Kenny Jew, president of Color Us United, and former U.S. Senator Jim Talon on everything near and far. Folks, we'll be back right after this on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Have you been floored? Not until you've gone to Michael's Flooring Outlet. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 28 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Save money and get quality at Michael's. Plus, your installation will be done right the first time when you hire the experts at Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 convenient locations or shop from home. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
If you're concerned about the current market and the 40-year record high inflation that we're seeing, you're